At Fide.email, we believe in protecting your privacy and supporting your faith. Fide.email offers peace of mind with features like end-to-end encryption and secure communications tools. Your data stays private and your values remain intact. Choose an email provider that understands what matters to you. Make the switch to Fide.email today.
There are some stories that have been distracting from the real news stories of the day. There has recently been, for example, as a story you should be paying attention to, we'll go over it briefly in a moment, the story of Cardinal Fernandez selling the faith out once again to the secular world. Few people seem to notice this except on social media. Certainly very little reporting on it in the Catholic press happened because of stories like, this important story, which comes to us by way of Diane Montagna, posted this on X. Watch. In Pope Francis's first public appearance since returning to the Vatican, this morning he joined the Jubilee Pilgrimage of the Sick and World of Healthcare. Before greeting pilgrims and faithful in the square, he received the sacrament of reconciliation in St. Peter's Basilica, spent time in prayer, and passed through the Holy Door. This video is posted from the Holy See press office, and you can plainly see, I'll even go back a little bit so you get a better view of it. We'll mute that for copyright reasons, but you see Pope Francis there is actually being wheeled out in a wheelchair, and he can be seen greeting pilgrims and the like, just as Diane Montagna reported. She is an independent journalist stationed in the Vatican, and her greatest hits, reporting hits, include her giving the what to the modernists at the Synod on Synodality, asking them the hard questions that nobody else would answer. And so, along in that same line, as reported by Gloria TV in their EN News service, under the headline, Vatican journalist, Pope Francis can hardly talk. This is a story from an Italian news source saying that Pope Francis their sources say Francis can barely talk. And if you saw or listened to his recording from about a month ago now, while he was still in the hospital, that's just plainly true. At that time, he would say like 3 words, and then he'd have to catch his breath before saying anything else. On and on and on it went. And this was also confirmed in this story also from the EN News service at Gloria TV, with the headline, Francis tried to appear on video, but canceled. He wanted to appear at a recent Angelus event via video, but was unable to because of health issues. All of them important stories. They should be covered by the media, but they did distract from other stories, as you're about to see. So brace yourself for this incredible story. You may have seen this post because it's been out there for a few days now. But we go here, find my tabs, to a post on X that just sort of from complicit clergy. Got to be careful when you talk about this one. If you ever watch like Michael Knowles video, or especially usually it's Michael Knowles, start talking about this subject broadly and immediately they cut away, right? Because our hosts have zero tolerance for replacing for disagreeing with the false gospel of this subject. But Cardinal Fernandez now claims that carving up those who deny immutable reality of the flesh is okay now in severe cases of this. Now, don't need to go into the details of this article. There's no reason to. It's Cardinal Fernandez being the slippery serpent that he always is. The thing to remember when you're talking about this, essentially what's being described as a social contagion, is now that society is basically turned against it, at least in America, the advocates for this, who many of them, if you get them talking about this subject, will say that they are openly against the Christian worldview, the Christian view of creation. And they would like to see it swept away. Many of them will tell you that every case is an extreme case. So here's Cardinal Fernandez in his official capacity as the prefect for the dicastery of the doctrine of the faith, the old holy office, the Holy Inquisition, or more recently called the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith. He holds the same office that Cardinal Ratzinger held in the 1980s, the 1990s, and the 2000s, defending the doctrine of the faith before he became Pope Benedict XVI. Cardinal Fernandez, holding that same office, says it's okay to subject people, including the most young, to those procedures in extreme cases. And the advocates for it, who want to upend civilization, sweep all mention of Christ from the public realm and get rid of the logical basis of Christian teaching on creation and the order of creation, including on humanity, will tell you that every case is an extreme case. That's what they will tell you. I know these people very well. I spent a lot of time with them before this became a very widely spread, well-known issue in the public sphere. I spent a lot of time with them working when I was in grad school. I knew these people very well. They will take this as an opportunity to say the Catholic Church agrees with us. Because every case is an extreme case. Every case. This is Amoris Laetitia in action. This is Fiducia Supplicans in action. Remember, Fiducia Supplicans actually explicitly said you can the couples in these parody of James Martin's, the James Martin parody of the Sacrament of Holy Matrimony, that the people in the relationship and the relationship could be blessed. Not affirmed by the church, but they could be given a blessing to mutually enrich themselves and grow closer to God. It's the same thing, except he's just verbally saying it here. Beware of when a formal document from Rome comes. Do not be shocked if we get a document like that from Rome. And you're going to see all of us trying to report on it on this platform without losing our channels, because YouTube takes a zero tolerance approach to disagreeing with this. Mary Beth says Cardinal Fernandez looks demonic. I will tell you that's the least flattering picture of him out there that I've seen. And that picture is always used by outlets that tell the truth about him to use to kind of push you in the direction of thinking he looks evil. Most of the pictures of him out there, you'll see he looks like anybody else. But that is a particularly nasty looking picture of him. It is sort of a form of manipulation. Now, speaking of manipulation, you will see this story also got lost in recent news from the English news service at Glory TV under the headline, Fatima, Enforce Synodality in Action. The Diocese of Fatima, they're implementing the synodal process, and priests who objected were silenced. You are going to see in your dioceses, in your parishes, unless you go to Mass at the SSPX, maybe the FSSP and groups like them, but definitely with the SSPX, unless you go there, you're going to see in your parish, directed by the bishop, synodal reforms. The elevation of the laity, decentralization of authority, laity taking greater roles in their parishes and things, which on paper sounds fine until you realize, again, this is the worst catechized generation in history, and you're about to see what I mean by that. But here is the details from this. This is at Fatima, okay, the Diocese of Fatima. Quote, Jose Ornelas Carvalho, Bishop of Lyra of Fatima, has decided to impose synodality on his clergy, writes Info Vaticana. He has carried out his work in 3 phases: endless meetings with much chatter, the transformation of the 73 parishes into 17 pastoral units and 7 vicariates, and the creation of presbyterial teams. Father Rui Marto, a Claretian and parish priest at Fatima, initially agreed to the radical measures, but then backed out and refused to be replaced. In the end, in accordance with the true meaning of synodality, he was removed. Father Marto lodged a canonical complaint, but as was to be expected, it was ignored. On the 30th of March, during a Novus Ordo Eucharist in the main church of Fatima, the pastoral unit of Fatima was imposed. The faithful were asked to accept the changes with unity, fidelity, and trust in the Holy Spirit. Parish model under the new synodal religion will be destroyed. You will have parish buildings, but you're likely to have priests traveling from great distances to cover masses at 5 parishes on a Sunday. That's likely what's going to happen. And what you're going to have is the model being tested in Germany, where you will have laity who are authorized, sometimes religious who are authorized, to offer the Eucharist instead, pre-consecrated hosts. Because instead of fixing what it is the modernists have wrought on the church, which is a collapse in vocations and a collapse in belief, they just turn it into a managerial problem. And that's what they're doing. And remember what I said, that this is the worst catechized generation in human history. New data shows you that most Catholics, at least in the United States, aren't even Christians. Headline from stream.org. U.S. Catholic belief in Holy Trinity hits bottom. Bombshell report laments rejection of Trinitarian doctrine by most American Christians. When they say most, I'm not kidding. According to their data, 9 out of 10 Catholics in the United States aren't even Christian. Because if you do not believe in the Holy Trinity, and I'm not saying the hardest thing to understand in the faith that most people encounter, the doctrines of the Trinity,
like almost nobody can explain it without accidentally slipping into heresy. Most people can, like good theologians can, but the typical Catholic has a very hard time with it. It's one of the trickiest things out in the faith to teach. I don't mean that. I mean, you deny the basic part of the Trinity. You're not even a Christian. You've left the faith. You've joined some ancient version of some heresy that's repackaged for modern day. Here are the details from this. Quote, only 9% of American Catholics believe in the existence and influence of the Holy Trinity, according to a shocking new report released by the Cultural Research Center at Arizona Christian University last week. The alarming statistics published by eminent cultural analyst Dr. George Barna also highlights a significant departure from foundational Christian beliefs by mainline Protestants, those who theologically identify as born-again Christians and others who self-identify as Christians. According to Barna's findings, 20% of Protestants, 24% of born-again Christians, and 16% of self-identified Christians adopt the fundamental tenet of Christianity, quote, that God exists in three unique, equal, and indivisible persons. While only 1 out of every 10 American adults espouses a Trinitarian faith, the highest number of Christians, 62%, who uphold the doctrine of the Trinity are, quote, integrated disciples, a term Barna uses to designate Christians, quote, who possess a biblical worldview or a biblical theism. Statistically integrated disciples have a demonstrated ability to assimilate their beliefs into their lifestyle. Therefore, this group consistently, albeit imperfectly, comes closest to reflecting biblical principles into their opinions, beliefs, behaviors, and preferences. Not surprisingly, 2/3 of adults who possess a biblical worldview believe in the Trinity, he said. What is surprising is that they are the only population segment identified for which more than 40% believe in the existence and influence of all three persons of the Trinity. But even the statistics for the groups that are most in tune with biblical teachings, such as belief in the nature and impact of the Trinity, are shockingly low for a nation in which most people claim to be Christian, he acknowledged. Quoting his study, confusion regarding the Trinity persists today, although an overwhelming majority of Christian churches, including almost all Protestant, Catholic, and Eastern Orthodox communities of faith, embrace the Trinity as a mainstream doctrinal foundation. The survey revealed that 1 out of 4 people who attend an evangelical church or Pentecostal church are Trinitarian. Slightly fewer mainline Protestants, 20%, espouse belief in the Trinity, but less than half as many Catholics, 9%, are Trinitarians. End quote. 9% of Catholics are Trinitarians. This isn't surprising. Most of the data from other research organizations shows that they talk about Catholics who believe in the things the church teaches on morality, and they break it down into different categories of Catholics based on how often they attend Mass, and they define someone who attends Mass regularly as someone who attends Mass twice a month. You need to be going to Mass every single Sunday and every holy day of obligation, unless you have a very good reason. Otherwise, you need to be there. Okay? But the less often you attend Mass, the less you believe. Makes sense if you think about it for half a second. That's what we're dealing with. And then there was other data. They did an organization did something called geofencing. What they do is they track cell phone data. And even if your phone is off, your phone can be tracked, by the way. You should know that. Even if your phone is off, if you have this thing off, it can still be tracked. And they found that only 8% of Catholics go to Mass every Sunday using cell phone tracking data. You may leave your phone in your car. That's fine. Still considered at the location. Most people don't leave their home completely without the thing. And with that data, 8%. And that lines up perfectly with the Trinitarian data. Make of that what you will. This is all against the backdrop of people who are barely Catholic at all, barely Christian at all, in high positions in the hierarchy. They're the ones, celebrity media, are turning into celebrity bishops to align Catholics, put Catholics in quotes at this point, and Christians more broadly, back in line with the fading power of the outgoing establishment political system in the United States. We're in a political upheaval at this point. It's pretty obvious. These things happen about once a century, where the whole system gets shaken to its core and new things aligned in it. We're probably going through one of those right now. This is the thrashing of that system. That's why, as I reported to you earlier, they elevated McElroy, someone who has no business being in the priesthood at all. He's also the smartest of the American Cardinals, almost certainly. But I'm curious what you think about this. Does this surprise you? You get Cardinal Fernandez saying, oh, extreme circumstances, we can allow this evil process to be done to those who are confused about the fundamental, immutable nature of reality at the most basic level. Knowing full well that the activists for this will say, well, every situation is an extreme one. And that this synodal reform at Fatima is coming to a parish near you is involving the same laity who only less than 1 in 10 of them believe in the Trinity. I'm curious what you think about this. So let me know in the comments, please. Hey, like and subscribe if you have not. It certainly helps. Sharing this on social media helps too. If you've ever thought about supporting the work we do here at Return to Tradition, it does help enormously. There are options in the description box below or that join button that's on your screen. All those options were asked for by viewers like you. Helps keep these daily messages coming. And as always, pray for the church. All these bishops we talked about here today, whether it's Fernandez, McElroy, those researchers, anybody, I'm not trying to make you sinfully angry at them. Pray for their souls while they still have a chance. As always, pray for the church. I'm Anthony Stine. Ave Maria.